What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Tee It Up. I'm your host, Pierre, Pee Wee the Plug, Andreessen. We have another jam-packed episode. There's a lot to get to. Last week, I had the honor and the privilege of having a couple of guests. I want to give a big shout-out to my producer, Christian. He pulled some strings with a buzzer-beater get, which was Nick Clifford, who we all have been a fan of over here throughout the draft process and prior to that in the NCAA tournament and during the regular season of the college basketball year. Shout out to Nick Clifford. Very quick conversation. I feel like when you have guests that you connect with and you enjoy and the conversation is going good, it feels like the interview is like 5 minutes. In reality, it's a 20-minute interview. Same thing happened with Ty Jerome. I think we had Ty Jerome for like 45 minutes, but like when it wrapped up, me and Ty Jerome felt like it was a 15-minute conversation. So we'll get Nick Clifford in the future when his schedule is a little bit more solidified. We'll bring him on again and have a more in-depth conversation about his journey and then what it's looked like post-draft. Next time we talk to him, maybe summer league or something like that, he'll have a team. You know, he'll officially be an NBA player. He'll have a bag. And so, you know, we'll be able to have a little bit more in-depth conversation there. We also, in last week's episode, got a chance to chop it up with my guy, Rafael Barlow, one of the guys in this draft space that I have a lot of respect for, I've been a fan of, I've learned from, and to be able to, you know, have a conversation that went so many different directions was incredible. And I talked about it in the first ever episode of Teed Up, where my goal and my vision was to be able to create a world and a community where we all could be teachers, we all could be learners, and we all could just have, you know, a connection that is limitless. And that's exactly what I think that conversation showcased, right? It took us back to a lot of different niche players who we loved years ago growing up. It took us to some moments that helped us fall in love with the game. And I think a lot of people were able to watch that and connect with that. And, you know, it just creates an environment where the game can be celebrated. And no pun intended or pun intended, you can enjoy basketball. And I feel like that's another side of what we do here. You know what I mean? There's always room to debate, disagree, go back and forth. But to be able to sit down and also just throw out random players and reminisce and be like, man, I remember how good this guy was. And, you know, to have some favorite players that always weren't the superstars, it's just good for the game. And it's nothing like being able to sit down and have those type of conversations. I also want to put it out there for our viewership is expect more of that. This is also going to be a place where, of course, we're going to continue to get players. We're going to interview people in the industry. And again, we learned a lot through Rafael being a scout that's been overseas. He talked about different cultures and how they, you know, look at the game, how they treat the game. And I think it's important to be able to have that type of content as well here. But outside of the players, coaches, GMs, trainers, all of that, there's also a bunch of relationships that I have in this space. And I think the summer and the offseason is going to be a really good opportunity to have more of those conversations, because we all know after the playoffs, after free agency, and after the draft, there's this little window in the NBA season, you know, in the NBA offseason where it's a very, very dry period. And it's good to be able to have those resources and connections and relationships that we can bring on here and just have, you know, a bunch of different content that isn't the usual. So shout out to Rafael Barlow. And again, shout out to Christian for pulling together some strings. That was very, very big. And my guy is not a seasoned producer, so I got to give my boy his flowers. That's 2 times this year. He pulled strings for the Jalen Wells one. And then in a situation where the combine just wasn't there for us this year, which is an entire separate conversation in itself, because y'all know how much I love and appreciate being able to connect with the rookies early. Christian made something happen, and I appreciate him for that. So, yeah, because of that episode, we missed a lot of things that have happened in the playoffs. And obviously now we're in the conference finals, and we're going to get to those series in a minute, especially the Timberwolves versus Thunder. I have thoughts on game 1. But before we move there, we have to talk about how we got to the conference finals. So I want to say the last time I talked to y'all outside of the interview, the Knicks and Celtics were still in their series. The Knicks were obviously up and whatnot. Jason Tatum maybe had just had his injury. And the Knicks lost game 5, and then ultimately we were able to close it out at home, game 6, blowout win. Very, very incredible feeling, right? There's no secret I'm a Knicks fan. It has been a very long time since I've seen the Knicks have this level of success. Probably, matter of fact, if we're just being legitimate. I've never seen this level of success because the last time they were this good, I was 5 years old. So it's the first time in my Knicks fandom seeing them play at this level. I've had this thought process all playoffs long with this Knicks team where I just wanted them to play at their fullest potential. I'm not here to, get my hopes up for a championship win. I'm rooting for them. I'm supporting for them, and I'm enjoying the ride. But me as a fan, I feel like I'm playing with house money. This was a team that came into the playoffs not being able to beat any of the top teams, having different question marks. The fit with Cat. Is the defense going to be able to be good enough? Can a guy at Jalen Brunson's size lead a team deep into the playoffs for a playoff run? The Celtics are so good. The Cavs are so good. The Thunder are so good. The Western Conference is stacked. And so I feel like the Knicks just kind of got lost in the sauce a bit. And I had to remind people how good we were. Yeah, we didn't really beat up on the top teams, but, playoff basketball is different. And it was really good to be able to see people understand that now, beating the Celtics, the reigning champs and whatnot. Obviously, it was tough to see, Jason Tatum go down with the injury that he had. But, even prior to that, we were headed into a 3-1 lead. So everybody's been asking my feelings and opinions. I'm happy. I'm ecstatic. But I understand that there's more to do. There's more to do. I'm anxious and excited for the next round and to see what they can do in the conference finals. But again, to be able to beat the reigning champs, a team that I personally felt like all year long was going to be impossible to beat in a 7-game series. And I thought that the Celtics had a heavy, heavy chance of repeating. It was something nice, and I'm enjoying every single bit of it. My reaction has died down now that there's been a few days since the win. You know what I'm saying? But I'm definitely excited, and I'm hoping for the best. And now it's just kind of like it's house money. I want to say to the people online, you're not going to be able to disrupt the emotional climax that Knicks fans are experiencing right now. Like, it's an emotional overload. I see people in the comments every time I'm celebrating or I see other Knicks fans celebrating. It's like, at first it was, y'all ain't going to beat the Pistons. Pistons going to shock y'all. They're going to upset y'all. Then we beat the Pistons in 6. Then it was like, that don't mean nothing. Y'all and the Pistons just played each other to see who was going to get swept by the Celtics. Then we won the first game, and it was like, that don't mean nothing. The Celtics still going to win in 5. They'll win the next 4. Then we won game 2, and it was like, Celtics still going to win in 6. Then they won the game 3, and it was like, see, told you Celtics in 6. And then we go on to win the series, and it's like, or even when we went up 3-1, it was like, people were still, and the Tatum injury kind of clouded everything. It was such a tough thing to experience. But there were still people that were saying, like, man, I don't know. I ain't giving it to the Knicks just yet. The Celtics are still, the Celtics. And then we ultimately beat the Celtics. And now there's people that's in my comments saying, man, but the Pacers. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just weird to me that it's like, at some point, you shut the fuck up. And it's just like, just watch the show. Like that, so just for the people that, I understand the Knicks, the Lakers, the Cowboys, the Yankees. There are certain teams that, like, people just dislike, and I'm not against you. Like, if I wasn't a Knicks fan, I would probably be doing the same thing. Not maybe to the level that y'all are, but there's Knicks fans that I don't like either. Like when the Knicks fans threw the garbage on the Tyrese Halliburton dude, I didn't like that. I don't do shit like that. We can talk shit. But, we ain't throwing garbage on people and doing shit like that, because now that's going to a different level. But pipe down, enjoy the show. The more y'all root against the Knicks, the more they elevate. And again, nobody expected the Knicks to be here. So at this point, we playing with house money. So the Celtics are eliminated. Then we go over to the Cavs, the other side of the Eastern Conference. The Cavs had a very tough series. The Pacers were able to get them out of the way in 5 games. A lot of conversations now on the Cavaliers. And I do want to say this. I am not sure what the Cavaliers are going to be able to do in the offseason. That's a new conversation, and that's kind of where I'm segueing to the next part of what's next for these eliminated teams. Out of the 4 teams that just got eliminated, the Cavs are the hardest one for me to kind of paint an offseason picture for. They had such a really good season. Their starting five was really solid and really good. They kind of shocked all of us by being the best team in the Eastern Conference. And there's a world where maybe this roster can do a couple tweaks. But there's also a world where it's like you don't panic and you don't feel the need to make a drastic change because you didn't, meet expectations. There's some things in the series that you can point to and try to use as an excuse. Darius Garland wasn't healthy at all in this series. You had a game where you not only missed Darius Garland, but you missed Evan Mobley and DeAndre Hunter. That does not help you at all. So maybe there's a world where you're like, hey, we can try to run this back one last time if there's nothing out there on the market that makes you feel comfortable with a change. That's the difference for me. I think the Cavs should go into the offseason. They should review themselves. And if there is something out there that can overly add a booster to this roster, you take that swing. But I just hope that the Cavs don't go into the offseason trying to force moves. I think that could be a big mistake. And I always talk about it. Next year, the Cavs are going to go into the next season and people are going to doubt them. They're going to bring up their shortcomings, how they didn't meet expectations, how they kind of folded in the playoffs. And, I don't want to hear nothing about it. That's what happens. All you have to do is get over the hump that one time. It don't matter how many times you try, right? Like, if it takes you 4 playoff series or 4 years to get over the hump, nobody will care as long as you eventually get over the hump. There's a lot of teams that we talked about, and he was like, I'm not taking them serious, or all this and all that. Once they got over the hump, that's all that mattered. Giannis and the Bucks. I remember the conversations with Giannis. Like, man, is he ever going to be able to do it? They're just going to build a wall. Chris Middleton is the closer and different things like that. Like, I remember those conversations. The Bucks kept falling short and short and short. And then that one year they broke through and they won a championship, and that's all that mattered. I remember the Nuggets. The Nuggets kept getting closer and closer and closer and closer. And it was like, is this team ever going to be good enough? Will they ever have enough? Like, is Jamal Murray going to be good enough as a number 2 to Jokic? I remember when they had Paul Millsap, those days, like, they go far back into trying to break through. And all it took was that 1 year, a couple years ago, where they finally broke through and beat the Miami Heat. And that's all everybody talked about then. Nobody remembers the shortcomings. So I feel like some of these teams, you have to have that mentality. If there is an avenue to get better, you take it. But if not, I just don't believe in forcing it and ruining what you have because of a playoff series that particularly didn't go your way. And I think the Cavs are still going to be a really good team. I think next year they could, have the same level of success, and they'll just have to hope that when they get into the playoffs, some things go their way, right? Injuries are a part of the game, and all you need is that 1 year where you're the team that gets some of that quote-unquote injury luck and the stars align, and as long as you can take advantage, you're good to go. On the Western Conference side, speaking of injuries, more injuries, the Timberwolves had their way with the Golden State Warriors. And the Warriors, it was a little disappointing for them because they went out and they did what we all wanted them to do, was to go make a move to add somebody, whether that was Jimmy Butler, whether that was Kevin Durant, and to see them have the success that they had in the first round against a young, hungry Houston Rockets team, and they were able to, get through in 7. To see Steph Curry have that hamstring injury and only be able to play 13 minutes or 12, 13 minutes in that first game and have the start that he had. He made like half of it. He shot 3 from 6 from 3 in like 12, 13 minutes. And it looked like he was going to have one of those nights. And just to see him go off into the locker room and never see him again in the series, it was a bit disappointing. One thing I will say, there is an avenue where the Warriors can get back on top next year with an older roster. And it's going to be tough. But I feel like what we saw in this second half of the season when Jimmy Butler was in a lineup with Draymond and Steph Curry, that team played at a very elite level. A very, very elite level. Now you'll be able to go and have a full offseason to properly place talent around these guys. I think they're in a great position to be able to do something with Jonathan Kuminga, whether that's a sign and trade, to go get some size in the front court, to go get some wing depth. There's a rumor that the Warriors are in the market for a playmaking wing, kind of made me scratch my head because I feel like Jimmy Butler identifies as that. You know what I mean? And I also think that this is the time where I would like to see the Warriors kind of prioritize size. If there was one thing that they lacked in both of those series, and obviously not having Steph Curry in that second series, it's just very hard to gauge and judge them. But the size is the thing. And I think that this is a time in the offseason where there's going to be a lot of size available. And depending on where they sign and trade Jonathan Kuminga, I think that they can get some help in that area. I think Quentin Post played really good for a rookie. He's only going to be better, I would assume, in his second year. But I do think that it would be nice to have legitimate size, especially that can give you something on the defensive side of the basketball and in the rebounding area. And when I think about the big market, not to get into too many details and specifics, Robert Williams is going to be out there for the Portland Trailblazers now that they have Donovan Clingan as their solidified big. Clint Capella is going to hit the free agency market and get off of the Atlanta Hawks roster. Mark Williams and his situation with the Charlotte Hornets is still unclear after they traded him and he got rescinded and he kind of was still unhappy with being there. And then the Lakers got eliminated from the playoffs and he puts a tweet up. So there's still something with Mark Williams and the Hornets that I'm very curious to see what ends up happening. Nikola Vucevic at the Chicago Bulls exit meeting interview talked about at this point in his career, he wants to be on playoff teams, going on playoff runs. That's another big man. There's options out there. And Jonathan Kuminga is going to be a guy that I think teams will buy into. Now, is Jonathan Kuminga going to get the $30+ billion a year contract that he was looking for and seeking? No. But I do think that there's a world where somebody would buy in on Jonathan Kuminga at a $22 to $23.5 million annual type contract per year. I think that's fair. And I think if you're the Brooklyn Nets, you want some of that. I think if you're the Bulls, you would take that. Washington, Sacramento, who is probably going to mix things up in the next few months to start to really gravitate to a rebuild. So there's an avenue where the Warriors come back next year and they have Steph, they have AirPods, Jimmy Butler, Draymond. You go out and you get one of these bigs that I mentioned. Nikola Vucevic is on the Warriors going into next year, and you still have a bench where there's Buddy Hield. Maybe you have Moses Moody. Maybe he is a trade chip. And then you have, Quentin Post and Gary Payton and all of these other guys who aren't necessarily superstar players, but they're stars in their roles for the Golden State Warriors. So I'm just as excited for the Warriors next year as I was after they made the Jimmy Butler trade. I just think that what they have there and the fit and the system, the intelligence, the IQ, I think it's all there. And I think they're going to have a blessing in disguise of being able to get this rest, right? They're older. Steph Curry, you know what I mean, is only getting older himself. I know these guys still play like they're in their early 30s, but they have to start thinking about the bigger picture if they want to have another chance at winning this. And the blessing is, hey, we got eliminated in 5 games. Steph Curry had a hamstring injury, and we didn't extend the series enough to have him go out there and play on it like we saw Aaron Gordon do, which is the next team we'll talk about, which is the Denver Nuggets. 7-game series with OKC. We're about to talk about OKC in game 1 against the Timberwolves in a very short minute. But I will say this. Watching game 1 of the Timberwolves series, and there's a lot of basketball still left, it only makes me celebrate the Nuggets even more. What the Nuggets were able to do against a team that dominated the NBA, nearly won 70 games, has the MVP. This is currently Wednesday. They say the MVP will be announced tonight. I believe that it's going to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Mike Malone believes that too. Wink, wink. For them to be able to hold their own and go 7 games and to persevere, to fight through and battle was amazing to me. It was really amazing to think about everything that they went through, whether it's the GM and the coach firing right before the playoffs. You have David Adelman coming into the playoffs with like 3 games of coaching, head coaching under his belt. MPJ has a shoulder injury. Aaron Gordon went from a calf injury to a hamstring injury. he's playing legitimately on one leg in Game 7. Like the tip dunk to win against the Clippers and to get this, like, such a magical year for them, and to see the way that they fought against a really, really amazing OKC team. Like, if we're being honest, OKC may breeze the rest of the playoffs. They may breeze through. Again, there's a lot of basketball against the Timberwolves, and we're going to dive into that series in a couple of minutes, I promise. But there's a world where they breeze there, and no matter what happens versus Knicks and Pacers, they breeze through one of those in the NBA Finals. And we look back and say, damn, they breezed through the playoffs, except against a Nuggets team that was on the decline, as everybody was speaking. All year long, we talked about how the Nuggets have taken a step back. They're not the same Nuggets. They're not the same Nuggets. That's all I heard. When we started this podcast, and in one of the first episodes, not one of the first, but in the early episodes, I gave my contenders, and the Nuggets was in it. I still remember them making a graphic and posting it to socials. These are Pierre's contenders. And I remember the comments of what people were saying when they saw the Nuggets on there. I'm sure the post is still up. People was calling me crazy. It's like the Nuggets, they're not the same, that this and that. And to see them have the success that they had against the Thunder and to push them as far as they did was really enjoyable. And as far as their offseason, they have some decisions to make. I love Michael Porter Jr. I love Russell Westbrook. But I feel like in that series, they were two big reasons why they weren't able to beat the Thunder. And it's very tough to say and to point out, because obviously it's a team sport, and both of those guys, were big factors in that first series, especially Russell Westbrook. And then, MPJ did have a game in the series against the Thunder. We shot 5 of 6 from 3, and he came to play. And he had a bounce back game in the Clippers series where he had like 15 rebounds. So they helped the team as well, right? Like, it's not to, I don't want to go too far, but I just look at how close some of these losses were for the Nuggets. Now, don't get me wrong, they got their ass kicked in Game 2, and they got their ass kicked in Game 7. But there's these other two losses that I look at, and there's a stretch from Michael Porter Jr. where he shot 2 of 14, 0 of 10 from 3 over the course of 2 games. And I remember looking at that and being like, man, if Michael Porter Jr. just could have gave them this much, one of those games they win. One of those games, Russell Westbrook shot 12 shots, 9 of them are threes. 9 of them are threes. At certain stretches where their bench is getting outscored by like 35-8 type difference. And in order for the Nuggets to be able to keep up with these teams that have depth, that have overwhelming top-heavy teams, they're going to have to sacrifice one of their guys. And so far, throughout these playoffs, and from a financial standpoint, it looks like Michael Porter Jr. may be the guy. And so when I think about an offseason for the Nuggets and how they can find a way to get better, it probably would be to do some type of trade where Michael Porter Jr. gets broken down for, a couple of players, where you can get somebody to come in and be maybe a 3-and-D wing, but you also get another body that you can rely, off the bench, whether that's like a Portland. I think we talked about Portland a little bit on a podcast yesterday, where, you maybe can get Jeremy Grant and like a Robert Williams. So now you have a legitimate backup center who can actually allow Jokic to take a breather. One of the biggest turnarounds in that Game 7 was when Adelman had a decent amount of a lead and was like, okay, this is the only chance of this game that I can probably sit Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, because they're probably going to have to play 40-plus minutes in this game. We've had a great start. We have a good enough cushion. Even if we don't, win these 2 to 3 minutes without them, we should still have a lead. We should still have a cushion. And no, the entire game turned upside down on his head, and the Thunder never looked back. And it was crazy. So I think they have to start thinking about how they can take a contract or take one of their players and break it down into a bunch of pieces. And I don't think Aaron Gordon is going nowhere. He plays that he made and how well he stepped up for them. And it seems like he's the leader in that locker room based on how he reacted to the article that came out about him and Russell Westbrook and how he nipped that in the bud. It seems like he's their voice in there for them. and he's an important piece next to Jokic and Jamal Murray. I think Christian Brown has played himself into an extension and has solidified itself a part of that core. And I think if you take a Michael Porter Jr. who shoots the ball really well, people are always looking for shooting. And again, if you're able to break that down into a player or two, you can find yourself in a situation where you're going to miss Michael Porter Jr. I mean, a 6'9", 6'10" sharpshooter, they don't just grow on trees. But in order to get in this league, you have to give. And when I look at their core, he's the one thing that I think has enough value to be able to get you something in return. And he's the one thing that I think you kind of can replace and sacrifice. I don't think you can replace Aaron Gordon in any capacity, which is why he played on one leg. Obviously, you can't replace Jokic. And I'll be honest, I don't think you can replace Jamal Murray. I don't think you can replace Jamal Murray for that two-man game at all. So I'm very interested to see what they're able to do. It's going to be a very weird offseason for them because they have not been in a situation where any of these guys have realistically been in trade conversations, like real trade conversations. And I think this is going to be the first time when you hear multiple names come up. You might hear Jamal Murray's name being brought up. Now, do I think he's going to be traded? No. But you might hear it. You might hear it. And now with the coaching change and everything, there's just a lot going on for them. The Celtics. Celtics are in a weird boat as well. Kind of like the Nuggets, where the difference between the Nuggets and the Celtics is the Celtics won't be making a move because they aren't good enough or because the roster needs some help or anything. They're going to make financial implicating moves to make sure that they're able to extend their future and not limit themselves being, over the aprons and different things like that. So the thing that makes it interesting, though, is that you probably won't have Jason Tatum for next year, right? I think his injury is going to be a 9-month recovery. And there's a world where I guess he can play at the end of the year or then towards the second half. But at that point, you would have to ask yourself, is it worth it for him to do that coming off of a Achilles injury? And I think a lot of signs will point to no, it isn't worth that at all. And now we got the news that Jaylen Brown was playing through a meniscus tear throughout the playoffs, and that might require surgery. And so it might look like next year is kind of a gap year for the Boston Celtics, kind of like how the Philadelphia 76ers were, except there's a scenario where the Boston Celtics can go into the year knowing that. I felt like the Sixers didn't know this year was going to be a gap year. They came in with the idea that they were going to be one of the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference Finals. In the Eastern Conference, they were going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals and compete for a championship. And clearly at the start, a bunch of things happened and they had to reroute and replan how they were going to direct what they're doing. I think the Celtics can go into next year understanding that it's going to be a gap year. It'll be a down year. I think it'll allow Jason Tatum to fully heal. I think it'll allow Jaylen Brown to fully heal. And I think it would make it a lot easier to move on from whoever you're going to move on from. I don't think they're going to trade Derek White. I think out of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, outside of them, he is their most coveted player. Signs point to Jrue Holiday because of the value. Kristaps Porzingis not being able to play, the fact that he has always kind of been a guy that, is going to be in and out of the lineup since his days with New York and Dallas. He was really healthy with the Wizards, really healthy at the beginning of his Celtics tenure. But Kristaps Porzingis is probably going to miss 25 to 35 games a year. It's just what it is. And I think some teams will buy into that. But this last look of him in the playoffs and this unknown virus and sickness and him not being able to breathe, him not being able to play a certain amount of minutes in the game, and they don't feel comfortable with him being able to start. I don't know what his value would look like around the league. And I don't think that the Celtics just want to make trades just to do anything. And because of Kristaps Porzingis, whoever is trading for him will probably want to know that they will be getting a player that will be able to play. So all signs then point to Jrue Holiday. I think Jrue Holiday is still valuable. I think Jrue Holiday still contributes to winning. He didn't have the greatest playoffs. The last game of the Knicks series, probably the worst Jrue Holiday game I've seen of him in a very long time. And I text my group chat. I checked the next numbers on the board, guys, and I was like, hey, this is probably the first time in a very, very, very long time where I'm literally watching Jrue Holiday and I'm thinking to myself, he does not look good. He does not look like a good basketball player. He was trying to throw lobs at Luke Cornett, seven rows in the stands, bricking the threes. Defensively, nobody came to really play in that game. The threes wasn't falling. Nothing really looked good for, what you paying Jrue Holiday and what the contract looks like with the remaining years and salary and his age and different things like that. It just didn't look good. But I do think there's a world where somebody buys into Jrue Holiday and they allow him to be the defender that he is. They put him in a winning environment. And he goes over there and he does the same things he's done at almost every stop he's been at, whether that's New Orleans, being a part of their best years with Anthony Davis, whether that's going to Milwaukee and helping win a championship with Giannis, whether that's coming to Boston and being a part of them winning a championship last year. I could see him going to another team and helping. There's rumors about the Dallas Mavericks maybe being interested in looking at a position where they can get a guard who could hold it down while Kyrie is recovering from his injury. You know what I mean? And then also being able to play next to Kyrie when Kyrie does return because they have the expiring contracts of Daniel Gafford, P.J. Washington. And that's a situation where, you send Dallas or you send Jrue Holiday to the opposite conference. You get some expiring deals and it allows you to get under once those deals expire. And then by the time Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum are healthy, you're in a cap situation where you could rebuild this team for what your needs and wants are. You know what I mean? They did a good job with the Peyton Pritchard contract. So you have him, you have Derek White, you have Tatum, you have Brown. The holes of this team won't be too big to fill. So there's a world where, again, you split up a Jrue Holiday contract for some short-term expiring deals. You have that gap year, whatever that's going to look like for you. I don't know who owns a 2026 Celtics pick. But yeah, if it's a year where you own that pick for whatever reason, you could find yourself in a position of some of these other teams where you get you a lottery pick. That's another asset, whether you use it to draft somebody, whether you trade it, and you just you work this team. And then there's a scenario where that draft pick, if you have it, maybe that draft pick helps you trade Kristaps Porzingis, and now you have a bunch of flexibility to reconstruct this team for another era of the Boston Celtics being the top team out in the East, looking to compete and contribute for championships. The status of Al Horford, uncertain. But again, I don't think retooling this team is like this Hail Mary impossible job to do, right? I think you have three players, Tatum and Brown, two wings, and you have one of the best role players in the NBA in Derek White. You have Peyton Pritchard, who maybe in your gap year shows that he's a starting point guard, or maybe he's continue to be your sixth man. And then all you have to do is figure out the center and the complementary guard for this team. And you just continue to do what you did. So interested in their offseason as well. Speaking of off seasons and rumors and moves and things like that, last thing we'll get into before we talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Timberwolves game one, a Western Conference Finals game that happened Tuesday night. Giannis. We have not talked about Giannis and his future in an advanced, detailed way on this podcast. So the report came out that Giannis is going to meet with the Milwaukee Bucks. For whatever reason, I felt like when I first saw the report, it said Wednesday. I'm not sure if today is the day or what. It kept saying also later in the week, so we'll see. But at some point this week, in the next day or two, if not today, Giannis is going to meet with the Milwaukee Bucks, and they're going to get to some type of understanding, whether that's Giannis wanting out, whether that's Giannis staying and having a list of demands. We're going to get a full-fledged scenario on what is going on. I have two perspectives on this. Number one, what I want and what I wish. I ultimately would love to see Giannis stay. And here's the reason why. The reason why I would want Giannis to stay is because I really don't see any scenario where he can go somewhere and it be drastically different. Number one. You look around the NBA and there's just not a lot of teams where I'm like, oh, they go and get Giannis and it's You got the reports where like the Rockets have let it be known that if they needed to, they would trade Sengun for Giannis. And so it's like you're giving up Sengun, you're giving up what? I don't know, Dylan Brooks. You're giving up a bunch of a bunch of the talent. You're gutting up the roster basically, and now you're going to have a team where it's like Giannis, Fred VanVleet, Amen Thompson, and like I don't even know what's left. You know what I mean? You won't have any draft picks because they're probably all going to go to the Bucks. And it's a better situation, but is he necessarily going there is he winning a championship with a gutted Rockets roster who has no draft picks to kind of retool? They would just have to hope that they have some free agency luck or something like. I don't understand. I don't understand that one too much. Depending on what the package is. The Brooklyn rumors. Yeah, Brooklyn has a bunch of money, but free agency really isn't a real thing. They don't own, too much of their draft capital in the future. So, like, they're going to have this year's, which turned out to be, like the 8th overall pick. And then, like, the very next year, they don't have their own 2026 pick. So, they have some picks down later. But it's like, I just, how are you building this team quickly around Giannis? I just feel like if it's at that point, he might as well stay personally. Now, on the other side, I will say, I would not be mad if Giannis went to the San Antonio Spurs. If Giannis was to request a trade, my number one team that I would want to see is the San Antonio Spurs. I think the Cooper Flag rumors and Giannis going to Dallas, I don't think that that's going to happen. Giannis going to the Pelicans. Could you imagine Giannis saying, hey, I want to trade. I want to leave Milwaukee so bad. And I want to go to New Orleans. I want to go play with Trey Murphy III. This doesn't sound real to me. No disrespect to Trey Murphy III. I think he's a fabulous player. But, like, usually when guys like Giannis demand out and they want to go somewhere, it's like, hey, I want to go play with Steph fucking Curry. I want to go play with LeBron. I want to go play with Luka. There's no avenues for Giannis to do that right now. So I'm not saying it won't ever happen, but it happened in the 2025 offseason. Where are you going to go, Giannis? You might as well stay your ass in Milwaukee and figure some shit out or be patient. I don't see Giannis going to fucking Miami. Yeah, I want to go play with Tyler Hero. Let's go get this shit popping. I don't see it. So, again, I see a lot of reports. They're talking about the Warriors and, oh, man, he was the only player to come to Steph Curry's all-star party that wasn't a Warrior. It's like, that shit sound cool. And I definitely think Giannis want to play with Steph. And I definitely think the Warriors want Giannis. But outside of that, there's a business where the GM of the Bucks just got an extension, John Horst. He has a job to do. And though he might want to do right by Giannis, if there is not a package that's going to position the Bucks for life after Giannis, he can't do right by him. As good as Giannis has been to Milwaukee and that organization, they cannot afford to say, hey, Giannis, where do you want to go? We're going to make sure you go there. Oh, you want to go to the Warriors? Cool. We're going to do a sign and trade, and we're going to get Jonathan Kuminga back for $25 million. We're going to take Buddy Hield. You can give us Moses Moody and give us 3 picks. No. That's not going to work. And the report is already out there that, hey, if Giannis wants to be traded and requests a trade, John Horst is going to look to gut up the roster that he's sending him to. And I don't think that that's a problem at all. I think that's what you have to do. Coming off of that Luka trade, when the next GMs that are responsible for trading these other stars, like Giannis, if he's going to request a trade, if there's ever a day where Jokic, I don't think it would happen. If Jokic ever wanted to leave Denver, right? If Anthony Edwards was ever going to leave Minnesota, looking at that Luka trade, these GMs are going to do the opposite. A lot of people on Twitter or the people that I talk to online are just like, they, for whatever reason, think that the Luka trade is going to be the new way to trade in the NBA. No. Don't get used to the Luka trade being a thing. That's a one-off that got highly, highly criticized for the right reason. Please don't fool yourself thinking Giannis is going to go to the fucking Warriors for Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga. and some picks that won't have value because the Warriors will fucking have Giannis and Steph on the same team. Don't think that. Please don't think that. So after we clear the air with all of these different scenarios and places he can go to, the only one that makes any type of sense is the Spurs. And I just don't know if Giannis is infatuated with the Spurs enough, or anybody on the Spurs, to demand and walk into Milwaukee's front office and walk in the building, bang on the door and say, "Send me to San Antonio." I don't know if he's doing that. If he is, I think that would be scary for the NBA, because they'll have the picks. They have the reigning rookie of the year and Stephon Castle. They have the second overall pick. If you're the Bucks, that may be what you want if you're going to trade them. Get the second overall pick, which would be Dylan Harper, right? That's one of the underrated things about these type of situations that I think fans don't think of, is like what we just saw at the draft lottery is, I don't care how many picks you get, there's no guarantee you're going to get a top 3 pick or you're going to get the number 1 overall pick. A team can give you 4 future picks. It does not mean it's going to result into a number 1 overall pick someday. It could just be a constant surplus of the 6th overall pick. So when you are in a position where you have a trade suitor like the Spurs, and you know, not only can I get those future picks, but I also have the number 2 right there for me, and it's Dylan Harper. I know what I'm getting. That's something that I would like to see. If it ain't that, I don't think I want to see Giannis going to the Nets and having to go through a 2-year stretch where they getting a team together. You can do that in Milwaukee. And I'm okay with player movement, but I think I also want to balance. My guys who are moving team, like Kevin Durant is going to be on another team. I have no problem with that. Jimmy Butler got traded. I had no problem with that. Jimmy Butler's been on a few teams. KD's been on a few teams. Harden's been on a few teams. Kawhi's been on a few teams. Paul George's been on a few teams. But when we have a situation where we can get our lifers, we have the Giannis Antetokounmpos, we have the Devin Bookers of the world, the Luka Doncic, who seemed like he loved Dallas, Anthony Edwards, who's saying all the right things with Minnesota, and I know he's still young. There's plenty of time for him to maybe be somewhere else. But when we get some guys that looking like they could be lifers, I'll root for them to be lifers. I think it's okay to have a balance. We have a group of players that switch teams, have been on multiple teams, but then we have the Steph Currys and the Giannis's on this other side who have just been with one team. I think that's okay. I'll root for that. So we're going to see what happens with Giannis. I think one of the other underrated teams that I did not mention, the Raptors. I wouldn't mind seeing Giannis on the Raptors. I think they got some good things over there. If you're the Bucks, you can get back a Scotty Barnes. You can get back the pick that they have this year, which I think is like 9th. You have heavy contracts that can make the money match. RJ Barrett makes a shit ton of money. Emmanuel quickly make a shit ton of money. But still, it's another team that has me saying, after the trade is done and I look at what they have, if you're trading Scotty Barnes and if you're trading RJ Barrett, Giannis is going to a team where it's him, Emmanuel Quickly, and Brandon Ingram, and Jakob Poeltl, Grady Dick. Might as well stay your ass in Milwaukee. So even the teams that I start to be like, I like that. I kind of like the idea of that. I'm like, nah. Matter of fact, when I actually say it out loud, what's the purpose of even leaving? If you're not leaving to go win a championship, stay. Stay. That's my argument. So I'm watching close for the report and the details of that meeting when it happens in the next couple of days. The next time y'all see me next week for Tee It Up, the information will be out. And if he requests a trade, we'll talk about all of the rumored places. If he doesn't, we will then talk about what the Bucks can do in the short-term future to try to continue to keep him happy, even with the idea of Dame being out for majority of next year. Now, with all that out the way, we can finally dive into last night's game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, where the Oklahoma City Thunder ran away with a dominant win over the Minnesota Timberwolves in a game that was interesting, to say the least. So the one thing I would say is the Thunder have been the best team in the NBA. And I felt like what I said earlier about them being in a position where they could comfortably beat the Timberwolves, and they probably can comfortably beat whoever they play, whether it's my Knicks or the Pacers in the NBA Finals, is because of a win like last night. Last night showed why I think the Thunder are the scariest team in the NBA. We're talking about a game where at halftime they were down 4. I think it was 48-44. And at the half, Julius Randle had 20 points, 4 or 5 from 3 or 5 or 6 from 3, just like lighting it up. And on the other side for OKC, Shea and J-Dub were 4 of 21. Shea had a 2 of 13 start in the half. J-Dub was 2 of 8 and to start the game. They couldn't make any 3-point shots that much. They weren't even taking a bunch of them. And in the worst half that you could have from your 2 best offensive players, you're still down 4 because your defense is that good. And they go into the third quarter and they go on a 32-18 run where J-Dub and Shea in that one quarter outscored the Timberwolves. And the rest of the game is history. Defensively, they just don't let you breathe. They are one of the most suffocating, if not the most suffocating defense that I've seen in a very long time. They suffocate you. And as a result, the Minnesota Timberwolves could only really shoot threes, right? Like they couldn't score in the paint at all. The Thunder didn't allow them to score a single fast break point in this entire game. With a guy like Julius Randle, who is super good, but going downhill, with a guy like Anthony Edwards, as athletic and gifted as he is, being able to get out in transition, they didn't give up a single transition point. And they put them in a position to where they can only comfortably shoot threes. And by the end of this game, the Minnesota Timberwolves shot 51 threes at a 29% clip. That is not a recipe to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. And by the grace of God, Julius Randle made 5 of 6 in the first half. I don't think that that's sustainable. And some of the ones that he did make, they were not good shots. And it turns into fool's gold. I watched this game, and I was in the Discord with my numbers on the boards, guys, and we were saying all to each other, like, yeah, this is fool's gold. Minnesota cannot think that this is the way to play. And Doris Burke said it a bunch of times on the broadcast. Man, they shot 61 shots, and 44 of them from 3. More than half of their shots are from 3. They're just letting it fly, letting it fly, letting it fly, letting it fly. And in the first half, it was just enough. They made just enough to give them a 4-point edge. But boy, in that third quarter, when those long threes became long rebounds, Oklahoma City got them out of the game. And I also think that was one of the reasons why Oklahoma City was able to be in the game with a 4 of 21 shooting first half from J-Dub and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shea was 2 of 8 in the first quarter, and 5 of his 9 points came at the free throw line. But the box score numbers wouldn't tell you that full thing, because the Oklahoma City Thunder were able to score in the paint, they were able to score in transition. They were able to get the easy baskets to keep them afloat. And like Shea said in the post game interview, we believe that the shots are going to start to fall at some point, and they did. But if you're allowing a team to be able to stay in the game with you by just points in the paint and transition looks because of your long 3-point misses, yeah, when they do start to make shots, it's going to be a blowout game. This went from a game that was very close and the Minnesota had a 4-point lead to that third quarter, and then the beginning of the fourth quarter, it became an entertaining-less game. And you had the couple times midway through the fourth quarter where Minnesota would make a 3 and it would go to a 15-point lead or a 12-point lead, and they still were in range. But before you know it, again, the cold spells were too much. Oklahoma City is not a team you're going to be able to have these cold spells against. It's just not it. And I don't know what the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to be able to do, because the guy that's supposed to anchor their defense and allow these Oklahoma City Thunder guys to not be able to score in the paint, he can't do anything offensively. I said it on my YouTube video. I'll say it here, man. I honestly think, and I don't say this with any disrespect, I say it because what I really believe after watching and analyzing the game, Rudy Gobert may be the worst offensive player of the entire game. Legitimately. At his size, with what his expectation is and what they ask him to do offensively, he might have to be the worst offensive player in the league. Nobody is asking Rudy Gobert to be Domantas Sabonis. Nobody's asking him to get the ball on elbows and make plays. Nobody's asking him to make short roll Magic Johnson passes. We're asking him to be able to fucking catch the ball and dunk it. We're asking him to have more rebounds in 21 minutes than Mike Conley. There's no way him and Mike Conley should ever, in any instance, have the same amount of fucking rebounds. I don't give a damn if Mike Conley rebounds out of his mind one game. If Mike Conley got 13 rebounds, I expect Rudy to have 35. If Mike Conley has 8 rebounds, I expect Rudy to have 19. There is never a game where they both should have fucking 3. The transition look when Rudy somehow flipped up a shot behind his head, unacceptable. For the amount of money that he gets paid, he has to give them something offensively. And again, not me, not you, not them, not Chris Finch, not Anthony Edwards. I don't think nobody is asking or expecting Rudy to do anything crazy. Hey, we're driving. We can't score in the fucking paint because his body's everywhere. And this is one of the best defenses. When we dump it down to you, catch it, grab it, dunk it. His best games of his career or in these playoffs cannot come against teams that just don't have a center. We credit him and praise him. It was all fun and games against the Lakers. The Lakers didn't play a fucking center that game, Rudy. They didn't play a center. The Warriors, they didn't have a fucking center. You have to be able to give them something. Something. It's one of the most frustrating things to watch. It's so nasty, man. The shit looks bad. It looks so bad. And again, I am going to express my thoughts on how I feel because when a motherfucker do their job and they killing it, I give praise. You win Defensive Player of the Year, you make a good block, you handling your own defensively against the Lakers and different things like that. Hey, man, you killed the Lakers when they disrespected you and didn't play a center. We gave you praise. We credited you, man. Rudy did his thing. That shit is over now. Now it's a whole new series. You got to come out and do it again. And it won't always be easy. Shit was disappointing. I look at the three off the bench guys for Minnesota, which is why I love Minnesota so much in these playoffs because of the depth. They're a team that could hold their own depth-wise against a Oklahoma City Thunder type team that has a bench with Caruso and Cason Wallace and Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins. Even Kenrich Williams came off the bench. He gave him 2 threes. Minnesota has their own little trio. Dante DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, a former 6th Man of the Year, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. At the half, they combined for 2 of 19 shooting for 6 points. Unacceptable. Unacceptable, man. I think Naz Reid was like 0 of 7 from 3. Dante DiVincenzo was like 2 of 10. And Nickeil was like 2 of 9 from 3. Just the worst imaginable shooting night from them guys in the worst way. They have to be better, especially Naz Reid. If that's the performance we're getting from Rudy, you got to be able to give them something. You have to. I see all the conversations about the foul and a different thing like that. Listen, I said it in my video as well. I'm not going to sit here and have a foul conversation every time that the Thunder play a game. I'll leave that for the people on Twitter. We're in the conference finals now. This conversation was happening in the regular season. It was happening in the second half of the regular season. It was happening in the early round of the playoffs. It was happening in the second round of the playoffs. I'm not about to have it in the third round and then in the finals and then in the offseason. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. If you don't understand what's going to happen in the games where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plays, then, man, stop watching the game and stop saying you know basketball. It is what it is. Elite level scores, get to the free throw line. Matter of fact, since I'm on a conversation, I'm going to read something that I saw today that gives you the context and what I mean. Shout out to Law Murray. Tonight was the first time that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander attempted 25-plus field goals and 10-plus free throws in the same playoff game. Michael Jordan did it 46 fucking times. LeBron James, 27 times. Kobe Bryant and Allen Iverson did it 20 times each. Donovan Mitchell has done it 9 times. He did it 3 times against Indiana. What do all those guys have in common? Elite level scores. Joel Embiid manipulates the whistle. Harden, Luka, Jokic, Brunson. I mean, do you want me to keep naming? I'll get exhausted naming names up here. It's a part of the game. You have to be able to guard without fouling. Chris Finch said the same thing. Hey, guys are frustrated. It happens. But you have to move on to the next play. He's going to get fouled. He's going to shoot free throws. If you don't know that by now in game fucking 90 or 100, I don't know what to tell y'all. It's exhausting. Yeah, there are going to be plays where he exaggerates it. Every NBA player in the league exaggerates it. There's going to be plays where he sells it. Every NBA player in the NBA sells it. It's all about who supports who. If you're supporting the offensive player, you think he got fouled every time he has the ball. If you're supporting the defensive player, you think he's never committed a foul in his entire life. And I feel the same way watching the games. As a guy that has not have a dog in a fight, when I watch the games, this is the most tiring, exhausting shit that I see from players. Every play of every game, a player is complaining about. And the fans are becoming the same way. Every play of every game, there's fucking polarizing perspectives. And it gets so crazy that we forget about the actual game. It didn't go off of him, it went off of him. That wasn't a foul. That was clean. That's a foul. That wasn't a charge. He flopped. That was goaltending. That wasn't a shot clock violation. That wasn't a three. His foot was on the line. Every fucking thing. Hey, that wasn't 3 seconds in the key. He got out. I remember Aaron Neesmith tipped the ball in from the free throw line. That was a lane violation, which I think it did end up being a lane violation. But it's just like, it doesn't. I don't know what people be wanting to happen. There are going to be missed calls at every level in every basketball game. I don't think there's ever been a game in the history of basketball that has been perfectly called. I don't. That's my 2 cents on that. If you're looking for those polarizing conversations, if you're looking for people to go into the narrative shit to drive clicks and shit, this is the wrong place. I'm not partaking in it. I think the Timberwolves got to control the basketball a lot better. Too many damn turnovers. They had 6 turnovers in the first quarter. I think the shot selection has to be better. There were times where I felt like they tried to get the game back in one shot. Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, a lot of these guys took some crazy, wild shots. And I think it plays into OKC's hand. And a couple of times I was watching this game, I said, do guys watch or read the scouting report? Is there a scouting report that anybody is following? You don't know when you shoot these fast-paced, long threes that have long misses that gives them a fast break that they're going to run you out of the game that fast? You don't know that? Rudy didn't know that Shea was going to head fake him and he was going to jump and then get him to foul him so that he can quickly get his ass out of the game with 2 fouls. That was his first foul. Then he had an over-the-back foul. Go sit your ass down. Guys don't know this. I don't know. J-Mac fouled out. He's going to have to figure out a way to guard without fouling. He's going to foul. But they're going to need him to play in the game. By the time he got fouled out, the game was kind of pretty much over anyway. Yeah, man, it's going to be tough. It's a big challenge ahead of them. In the second quarter, the Timberwolves shot 22 field goals, 17 of them from three. That's just the night that they were having. Oklahoma defense was so good, it was so suffocating that the only shot that Minnesota could get off was tough, contested shots. They made a decent amount in the first half at a 35% clip that made them think that was going to be the recipe, and so they continued to shoot it. Those misses kept them in the game, and those misses ultimately took the Timberwolves out of the game because, like Shea said, eventually the shots are going to fall. So when their offense starts to click and shots are falling, Caruso is going 3 of 3 from 3, and you're giving them the easy transition looks because they're forcing you to turn the ball over with how disruptive they are, and they're forcing you to take these long-ass threes that are long-ass rebounds that allow them to get out in transition. It's a death sentence. Epic Wednesday night moments, causes for teed up emergency segments. So that was just game of the year. I know I'm the Knicks fan and everybody is looking for that reaction. And I definitely understand. I just don't even know where to begin. There's so much that happened in this game that was good for both sides. That first quarter was like euphoric, as good of a start that we had. The Knicks, that being, the Pacers came out and was like 9-9, 10 of 10, and I'm like, these dudes about to have one of these nights. That feels like 3 games ago. It feels like that game, that just one game, felt like 3 games just passed. Like I felt like that first quarter was a game of itself. I feel like the second quarter was almost a game of itself. And then that second half was like another game. And then overtime is its own game. It's so crazy. And I love giving analysis and detailed breakdowns and different things like that. But when you have a loss like that at home, what can I really say? It's hard for me to highlight the good things, which I will once I kind of come down off of this emotional roller coaster. But yeah, the greatest thing that I'll say, because I had a lot of people tweeting at me. I dropped my reaction video. People in the comments, man, shout out to UP. Real when you still drop the video. I'm not a salty fan. I'm not. I can get upset. I can be angry. I can be a frustrated fan. But I'm never going to be a salty fan. A loss like this was epic. It was a game of the year. And it was good basketball. As much of as a Knicks fan as I am, as much of a Kobe fan as I was, a Paul George fan, all of these guys that I like around the league and have liked, I've never been a salty fan. You got to give credit where credit is due. The Pacers, they stole that game. And we got a taste of our own medicine. Like we did that twice on the road in Boston. You know what I mean? We stole some from the Detroit Pistons in the first round. We really just got a taste of our own medicine. And it was a shocker to experience how this feels. It sucks. But again, it was good basketball. And I am a fan of that. And if that's what this series is about to give us, boy, do we deserve it and need it. The Western Conference series wasn't as good. Kind of had its moments, but was like fake boring at the same time. So to be able to have this was extremely dope. Got to give a lot of credit to Aaron Nesmith. A lot of the moment hype and the viral moment will be Tyrese Halliburton doing, obviously, the Reggie Miller impersonation of the choking. And that was a moment in itself. But I don't think you get that moment at all without the Aaron Nesmith unconsciousness in the fourth quarter. 6 or 7 from 3 just got me screaming at my TV like, somebody guard this man. And you can do nothing but respect that. Real basketball, true basketball fans, they're not going to come with a bunch of excuses. I'm not going to talk about times where I thought Brunson was fouled the same way I'm not going to acknowledge all the time people say he's baiting for a foul. It's basketball. I've played it. I've watched it. I've studied it. I cover it now at a professional level. Missed calls are going to be a part of the game, and I'm not going to take those small incremental moments to ruin such a beautiful, epic, dramatic, cinematic game. Like I just, that's kind of where my emotions in my mind go now that I had about 25 minutes to kind of process the loss. We get good games like this, and it's such a moment. It's so like epic is really the word. It's like it's an all-time moment, and like you want to be able to discuss it and go on social media and different things like that. And it's like I open my phone to try to see what's being said, and all people want to do is complain. You know what I mean? You got salty Knicks fans. You got fans of teams that are not even in the picture that just want to try to troll and, oh, man, the Knicks are a joke. You know what I mean? You got then when the Pacers are losing, the joke of a team, the Pacers, nobody took the Pacers serious, and now they won. It's just like, can we enjoy basketball? And I understand, like, pun intended and no pun intended, we got to start enjoying this shit. And I kind of only want to converse and share my thoughts and go back and forth with people who are on the same type of time. Epic game. Am I going to be real? Does it suck? Of course. Whenever you're rooting for a team or you're on a team, you want to win those games, man. Like it is such a big boost to the team morale to be able to come on top with a win like that in those type of games. You want to be able to win those games for sure. But it's the first of 4. It's a lot of basketball left. And you have to credit the other team. They didn't cheat. You know what I'm saying? They didn't do anything. Like, they played better. Rick Carlisle coached his ass off, in my opinion. Their depth was amazing. Pressing Jalen Brunson 94 feet the minute the game started and just trying to wear him down with bodies and bodies and bodies. And Nesmith is bigger, stronger. He's pressing them. Then Nembhard is pressing them. TJ McConnell is pressing them. They're being physical and aggressive, and they play well. They played well, and even the decision to play Obi Toppin as much as he played him in that overtime, Obi Toppin was really, really big for them. That putback dunk to me was like very big. I was so happy to see that they had missed, and we had that 1-point lead, and I felt like we get this rebound, we score, we try to build up some momentum, and for them to, get an offensive rebound and a putback in that possession was big because we had dominated them on the glass the whole night, and that was pretty much our advantage. And Mitchell Robinson was in the game and just kind of blew a box out assignment there. But those are some of the things. You love the way that Karl Anthony Towns played tonight. You love the way he shot the basketball. Obviously, Brunson is going to do what he do. Got to keep those guys out of foul trouble, especially Brunson. This is like the last couple of games. The game before last, he was in the foul trouble in Boston. It just doesn't put us in a good situation, right? Nembhard in that overtime went at him a couple times. And had like a finish and an actual bucket because Brunson was kind of handicapped and handcuffed defensively with 5 fouls. And it just kind of takes away the aggression that he can play with defensively. And offensively, he kind of has to teeter that line because they had called some offensive fouls. So we got to be able to watch that. Other than that, I mean, I really did enjoy the way that the team played. We controlled the game for like 4 quarters. But it gets overshadowed because Tyrese Haliburton makes this incredible shot. Aaron Nesmith, incredible down the stretch. Timely plays from Nembhard. And they silence Madison Square Garden. So as much as I want to give these analysis and different things like that, we can just hang on to the high of the moment. It is going to be an amazing series. And hopefully the Minnesota Timberwolves find a way to fight back against OKC, because what I would hate for OKC to kind of march through the Timberwolves in like a 5-game series or a 6-game series and breeze through that, and then like the Knicks and the Pacers beat each other up for 7 games, and then you go into the finals kind of limping after this dog fight just for a fresh ass OKC team who was already the best team in the NBA. So it's good, man. It is really good, and yeah, I'm just enjoying being on this side of fandom where even though my team lost, I can say that was still a good basketball game. I can tip my cap off respectfully to the Pacers. And, yeah, I'm going to rewatch this one and find some different things that we can do better, which is going to be tough because we did a lot of good things. Like the bench came into play. Our bench was good. They said this is the first time campaign hit a 3 since the opening round against the Pistons in game 1. We got production from campaign today. Mitchell Robinson instantly came in the game and just dominated the offensive glass. Like, I really wanted this win, man. I really, really did. But we know the Pacers weren't going to be a joke, and we should know more than anybody to never take the foot off the gas. You have to be able to make free throws. You have to lock in. We gave this game. They took it. It was a mixture of both. But because of the wins we had throughout these playoffs, we should know that we have to be sharp until the scoreboard says 0.0 as far as seconds. So, yeah, man, I'm excited for what's to come in this series. Again, anytime you get epic moments on a Wednesday night, you can expect a emergency teed up segment. That's a wrap. Another incredible episode of Tee It Up. As always, I appreciate every single one of y'all that came in and took some time to spend with us. Y'all also get in the comments. Let me know some of y'all thoughts on this Giannis trade and where he's going to go. And I want to hear y'all picks for each series. I don't want to hear about, oh, man, I had OKC this whole time, and then I go and do my research and you with somebody talking about the Bucks got it this year. As always, though, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all, and we'll see y'all next week. We out. Peace.